And know that that one that understands isn't a you. You is appearing in every moment, but isn't actually the experiencer, or it isn't appearing in every moment, it's coming and going in the moment. And who you are is the experiencer. On the ultimate level, you are no thing and everything. This emptiness experiencing itself as everything, as fullness. So right now, there's somebody actually that's listening to the talk, and they present themselves as if they really dislike me. And they use every excuse. I know the person because I just saw them try to write me a message, but I blocked it because I'm not here to be emotionally puked on, like people's unconscious emotional puking. And actually, I think that what happens is that when I speak, it touches them in a very vulnerable, loving place. And that makes them feel very vulnerable. So what they do is then, in the mind, that's too much to cope with. So they attack, and they use all types of things to attack and dislike. And I think really what's happening is that when I'm speaking, there's something that's being fulfilled in them, which is making them feel love and absolute vulnerability. And this is too overwhelming. So it actually appears as hatred. That I got the teachings wrong, that I'm teaching wrong people, that I'm doing bad things, that I'm leading people astray, whatever it is their mind is saying, just from previous conversations that they've said. So what they do is then they go to other speakers, they listen to other speakers, and they use that information to try to come at me. But why are they listening to a talk where they believe the talker is leading people astray? And why do they repetitively listen? I know in their argument, because I've heard them throw lots of stuff at me before, their argument is because I'm trying to save other people from you. Really? Are you sure if you go inside your body, rather than just going with the streams of abuse towards me, just go into the body and feel what's happening? When I was younger, it used to happen to me, to particular teachers. I used to feel when they spoke this immense love. And I actually disliked them for it, because I thought they're selling me something that's not true. And it's something that I deeply wanted, was this love. And I felt like it was like a false promise, like those romantic movies from the 80s that I'd been brought up on. And I thought, this is a false promise. I can't listen to them because they're offering me something that doesn't exist, and my hopes are going to get up, and I don't want my hopes to get up. And what I wanted was that love of what life is. And I could hear it. I heard it in the romantic movies when I was a child and used to watch them in the 80s, and then I heard it in these speakers. But it felt too painful. I couldn't be separated from that love again. I couldn't hope that there was that love. I couldn't do it. So my response was that they were bad, and I rejected them. And what I did was I went to teachers that were a lot more colder and intellectual and theoretical about it. Not all of the teachers, but this was one strategy, because that made me feel more safe. It didn't offer me something which was like a lover that could potentially go. It offered me a colder facts. I sometimes think this is why people get into negative thinking, because they're too afraid of positive thinking. Like, it's easier in a way to rely on negativity than it is to rely on positivity in the thinking mind. But then what it does, as the mind begins to invest more and more into negativity, is it produces more and more depressive chemicals in the brain, and it gives the feelings and emotions of depression. And really what it was at the very beginning, why that thinking mind, why that separate entity did that, was because it was so afraid of feeling vulnerability, feeling love, being totally vulnerable to life itself, totally vulnerable to not knowing, totally vulnerable to innocence, to other people's actions. So if other actions are mean, totally vulnerable to that feeling of being hurt. But what we do is we build all these strategies to push away that hurt, that rejection. And all you need to do is feel hurt and rejected. I've never been more human than what I am now. If you have some idea that you become superhuman and you never feel vulnerability or sadness or fear, then to me, that's totally wrong. It's all about being totally vulnerable. It's not about being some non-human person that doesn't feel all these things. And in that vulnerability, in all of it, that's where the freedom is. Totally vulnerable to what's happening.